And now we will begin by opening it up to Dr. Sonia Mehta. She's joining us from St. Paul, Minnesota, where she is teaching international comparative education. Her focus is on equity and social justice and knowledge connections between the local and the global. Dr. Mehta, I'll turn it to you.
Thank you, Nalini, for that great introduction and for setting up the global attendance of this particular session. I'll tell you a little bit about myself and why this is so exciting now to me to be here. I'm very thankful for the opportunity. I teach about connections. I teach about how we are linked in a globally interconnected world and how knowledge passes between and integrally inside and within and across these connections. I teach an international group of students too. They come from all over the world. Of course, my focus is education, but as we all know that education is part of a community. Education has roots back into a history and a culture of every space that we occupy. And I'm not going to be talking about education, obviously. I am going to be talking about the other thing that education and connection does. And that is about building trust. That is about understanding what it is that makes us desire a certain outcome more than others, you know. But like I said, I'm very happy to be here because I feel that the reason that we are all here, first and foremost, is because we all care and we all have questions and we all have concerns and we all have deep humanity. I'm going to talk about humanity in just a minute too, but turning to what is bringing us here today. The deepening crisis, the deepening humanitarian crisis in India over COVID is happening in a country of 1.4 billion people. We are also, all you have to do is open the newspapers, look at TV, get any of your news stories, wherever you get them, and you will see that the COVID cases, the death is hitting 415,000 K plus and rising as we speak, as we sit here today, as we are connecting ourselves here today. People are dying in India. People are suffering. The Washington Post, let's see here, the Washington Post calls it New Delhi a sea of grief. Sorry, I have dry throat already. I hear you when you say that you are heartbroken. I hear you when you say you are full of grief yourself. But I want to also tell you that beyond the numbers and beyond the news stories, there is the actual suffering of people. I myself had an uncle who in Canada actually passed away from COVID in Canada because there was not enough vaccine there. I've been hearing every day of family members, of friends who are dying on their way to hospitals, within hospital walls, without protection, without doctors, without what they need. So here we are, and I have to say, you know, when I was thinking about what I was going to talk about today, I focused on the word humanitarian. And I want to draw your attention to that word and how you feel when you hear this word humanitarian. We usually connect the word humanitarian with humane and goodness and empathy and compassion. But I want to also draw your attention to the fact that it's a word that comes from human. And we also have the power to be negative, to be, you know, to grab power when we can. We have the other side of human nature. which is the one that brings us into a focal point of trying to set up society so that it is unequal. It is actually unjust to a lot of other people. I work a lot with students who are disadvantaged. And I want to once again talk about the idea of this particular crisis being really, really disastrous for those who are disadvantaged. I mean, any society, let's be real, is structured around power. And we have a structure in India that is hierarchical. And I know I have people talking to me about how if you have money in India, if you have resources, if you have connections, you're going to be okay. What happens to those at the bottom of that ladder is something that is not even sometimes covered by the news. These are the forgotten people. These are the people for whom there is no recourse. There is a structure that has failed them. And, I feel that the connections, once again, when I heard about this group and the title of this group, or the focus of this group, is connecting dots. And I thought, this is a wonderful place to be talking about this, because do you know what happens to you happens to me? What happens on the other side of the globe is something that's going to affect you all over the globe. We are too connected. Rabindranath Tagore talked about into that, where knowledge is free, into that heaven of freedom, my father, let my country awake. But our country is everywhere now. The borders of our country has leached into the world. And so I want to talk about the impetus to action that we should be thinking about, even while we hold space for those people who are suffering right now in India, beyond anything that we can understand. I want you to think about being part of the group of human beings who choose the arc of justice, who choose to be part of the ethical existence, perhaps, rather than being the ones who say, this is not happening to me, this is happening to another group of people, this is happening on the other side of the world, and it doesn't necessarily connect with me. Because do you know what? We are connected. There's nothing like a pandemic that shows us how deeply we are connected and how borders don't matter anymore. And so when you think about action here, I would ask you to think about engaging with not with charity. This is not charity. I would look at it as an investment in our collective future. And I would look at it as an act of love. And I would look at it also as being part of that force that cancels out the more negative parts of what human beings can do. Because we're all adults here. We know what human beings are capable of. We know how destructive sometimes humanity can be. And so let us be part of that building trust that increases the positivity of human beings, and become the connection that the dots work through, is kind of how I see the world. So let me see here. I know that we are, when we think about sharing, I know we think about money, I know we think about, let's help, but we need to share knowledge and resources globally as well as skills. So let's really, when we engage with our groups, let's think about what this means. What does the word resource really means? What does access really mean? How is it that we can not just hold people, not just empathize, not just show compassion, but also be part of the solution that makes their lives better, that makes their prospects better, and that for immediate effect brings them out of misery. So I want to quickly wrap up because I know we have lots to talk about. So speaking of action now, the questions that we are going to be talking about is how and why should we exercise empathy and see common humanity in the crisis happening in India and the relevance for the rest of the world. And we're also going to talk about why and how can we take constructive action by donating whatever we have, money, skills, medicines, logistics, offering spiritual and mental support, mental health support as well, checking on friends. What is it that we can do as a collective? Let's think of ourselves as a collective force. And with that, I will stop. Thank you.